It's very rare to see ground up construction for workforce housing.
That's right.
Or a lot of times I call them the forgotten middle.
Yep.
It's not the premium Class A location. It's not the subsidized housing.
Yep. It's much different than the urban projects we have discussed in the past, but I think it's a product type that's sorely needed, not just in Colorado Springs or Denver, but nationwide, and is in extremely high demand.
So in today's podcast, we're going to discuss a 120-unit workforce housing ground-up development in a great location in northern Colorado Springs. So I have Adam Fenton from Narrate Holdings to come walk us through the property, and we're going to get a sneak peek into the spreadsheet numbers on the development deal. Adam, I'm always excited to have you back in the studio.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me again. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, so a lot of you guys have probably heard Adam on previous podcasts. He has a wonderful track record as a developer around Denver and Colorado. He's discussed numerous deals with us, but he knows development, he knows Colorado, and he comes here and walks us through projects that he's working on so we can understand how ground-up development works and also what the numbers look like behind it. So Adam, I know this deal on Weber Street.
Yep.
Is something that's back on your radar now. So walk us through, I think, first off, just the general location and business plan of it.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, it's located in northern Colorado Springs off Weber Street. It's about a 2-minute drive from UCCS, which is University of Colorado Springs. So about a 2-minute drive from there. And, it's a 4.5 acre site that was severely underutilized. Nothing on the site right now, and it's a working class blue collar neighborhood. It's much different than the urban projects we have discussed in the past, but I think it's a product type that's sorely needed, not just in Colorado Springs or Denver, but nationwide. And, we're able to buy the land at a really good price that allowed us to really, we think, deliver something that's unique to the marketplace and something that is in extremely high demand.
And this is just raw land, right?
This is just raw land now. Yep.
Now, in real estate, location is always an important factor on here. And you were telling me that UCCS has some pretty big growth estimates there.
Yep. They're actually in 10 years, and I don't know who's projecting this, but I've heard it through the grapevine from more than one person that they're projecting UCCS is actually going to be bigger than their Boulder location in 10 years. And part of that's attributable to they were gifted a lot of land around their university, so they have a ton of room to expand there. So knowing that that's coming and knowing that there's nothing really in the pipeline around there right now, we just saw what we thought was a significant opportunity here.
Yeah, so at high level, some things that really piqued my interest on this deal was the location, because I like Colorado Springs. I think it's got a great macro growth plan to it. The fact that the university is nearby and it's growing. If anyone's been to Boulder, Boulder's a cool city, but the university can't grow.
Yep.
There is no land there. And then you're really aiming towards that workforce housing.
That's right.
Or a lot of times I call them the forgotten middle.
Yep.
It's not the premium Class A location. It's not the subsidized housing.
Yep.
And very few people are building new products for the workforce housing, especially in Colorado.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So, all right. So location is phenomenal. How did you get this land?
So we actually came across this land through a development partner of ours. They had the land under contract and got introduced to them, and they were looking at potentially building a small bay industrial project here. And we started looking at it and looking at the zoning that was in place, and then also, kind of what was going on around there and the occupancies and the rents of some of the existing apartments, and started looking at it as an apartment deal essentially at that point in time. Thought there might be something there, and ultimately turned out that there was something there. So I think, we bought the land for, I think, maybe $5 a square foot.
Give us some context on it, because I am, I'm really learning to do development, learning about development through you and a couple other guys around town. So give me some context on why that's such a good price.
So that's really industrial land pricing is what it is. So to be able to get industrial, and that's a good price for industrial land even, especially in an urban location like this. So, I would say your land per square foot for a typical industrial deal is probably going to be $10 to $15 a square foot. You start getting into multifamily, depending on how high you go, you can spend $100 a square foot for 3 stories is a pretty good price.
So you got this for a fraction of
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, buying low is always a good part of real estate.
Yep.
And what year did you acquire the land?
We bought this in 2022, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been sitting on for a bit, and then
So we bought the land and have been going through the entitlement process here. We're in a really good spot from entitlements, and actually something we're considering here is actually a 221 D4, which is a HUD loan, which is a 2-year interest only, and then 40-year loan essentially after that, 40-year amortizing loan. And their rates right now are very strong. They're in the low 6s, which if you went and did traditional construction financing today, you're probably 8.5 is about as probably low as you're going to be able to go.
Wow. So this, I want to make sure. So it's going to be a 2-year interest only construction loan.
That's right.
And then it rolls into a permanent financing.
And then it converts into a permanent financing. Yeah. Permanent HUD financing.
Wow. What's kind of like the LTV on?
So you can go up to 85%, is kind of where they max it out at, but then they also have a debt service coverage ratio, threshold. So this is modeled at 75% loan to cost currently. And that's kind of tying back into their, I believe it's 1.18 debt service coverage ratio. I think we're a little above that, but, that's really how we're sizing the loan here. And why we're not getting to 85 is it's constrained with the debt service.
Okay. And they're looking at the debt service on the stabilized.
On the stabilized. That's right. Yep. So what they do is they look at it and say, okay, here's, we go back and, you go back and forth, and you essentially come up with an NOI at the end of the day. And then, you're kind of backing into it at that point in time.
Okay. So you have a great location, you bought for a great basis, and looks like some great financing is lining up as well.
Yep.
And how far through the entitlement process are you? 50%, 80%?
We're 100% here. So we are permit ready. Our development plan has been approved. Permits are ready to go, and now it's just working through the financing mechanisms here. That's, I would say, is the most challenging thing in today's environment. But feel pretty confident in our ability to navigate that, and hopefully, later this year we can have this project late this year or into early next, under construction.
Like, okay, shovels in the ground.
So
we'll dig in the numbers on there and the kind of the equity numbers in a few minutes. But I want to talk about the architectural design on here.
Yeah.
Because in the past we've gone into some discussions, and you have a very keen eye, and that's kind of one of the things you guys are proud of, and also helps you hit some top end rents for some of your locations is just the design.
Yeah.
And as we've talked, a couple beers here and there over lunch, you've really gotten into just some I've enjoyed some really good tangents. So talk to us about how you're designing this and how this differs from some the downtown urban locations.
Yeah. This is a completely different type of apartment project. So a lot of what we do in urban locations is we're building, we call them podium deals. All right. So your parking is under your building or above your building. You're really constrained by, site logistics and things like that. So it's very dense, and you try to fit as much in a small space as you can. This is a completely different project. And as we discussed a little bit, right, we're going to target, kind of working class families, and as well as we'll get some students that come down from the university as well, and this type of product. So we're really trying to keep our costs as low as possible. That is the name of the game in this for this project. And this one is a 3-story garden walk up. So essentially what that means is it's all surface parked. We're at about, I think, a little over 4.5 acres. It's all surface parked. And then the buildings don't go any higher than 3 stories. And the reason that's important is once you go to 4 stories, you all of a sudden have to introduce elevators. Elevators get expensive.
Is that just building code?
That's a building code thing. Yep. So once you hit 4 stories, even if it's still surface parked and 4 stories of wood, you have to introduce an elevator at that point in time.
How much does that increase the cost by?
You're probably looking at each elevator is probably $250,000 if I had to guess.
Okay, so that adds up real quick.
Especially when you have 11 different buildings.
I can do that in my head as well. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
So really trying to be thoughtful about it, but it's also one of those things. I'm really happy with the design here as well. Just because it is a different product type, and we're hitting a little bit demographic than our typical renter demographic. It's still, I still think it's a beautiful building, and it's still a new product. It's just you get a little bit. I'm not going to say cut corners, but you just get a little smarter and more efficient how you use your products, essentially.
What's the inside going to look like? Because, it's very rare to see ground up construction for workforce housing, because in a lot of the current, properties out there, they're, 1960s, 1970s, tired buildings. And they're still usually taking a really good rent, but in my opinion, not a great product a lot of times for the residents.
Yeah. So this will be a great, we've got, you still have the vinyl plank flooring, which is pretty standard in everything we do. We've got, we still have quartz countertops here. We have tile in the tubs and showers. So it's really, it's really just picking, a more cost-effective products, right? So when you get into like flooring, for example, you can get as low as like $1.50 a square foot, all the way up to you spend $50 a square foot. So you just you tailor it a little bit to the business plan that you're working on, and the entire consultant team has done a great job here, helping us go through those things and make sure that we're designing this building that stays consistent with what the business plan is here.
And then something we were talking about before is looking at these numbers is the unit mix.
Yep.
You're saying for a lot of times in urban areas, you tend to go more towards studios and one bedrooms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do your words so I don't butcher it.
Yeah. So in a lot of our urban settings, we're very heavy on one bedrooms. Usually I don't want to be over 10 to 15% of 2 bedrooms. And you go studios and ones. Here, it's different in that, ascribes to the business plan that we put forth here is, we're 20% one bedrooms here. And what that is just a different demographic living in this marketplace. So we said, with, going after, more families probably here, just due to the neighborhood that's around it. And then with the university nearby, we thought it made sense to go heavy on 2s and 3s. So, we're 20% one bedrooms, 55% 2s, and 25% 3s.
Are the 2 bedrooms and 3? How many baths are those?
Those are 2. I believe we have some 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and some 2-bedroom, 2 baths. So I think we have a couple different. We've got a couple different layouts there.
And same thing for 3 beds. Some 3 1s, 3 2s.
That one is that all the 3 bedrooms are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. Now, I want to switch over the spreadsheet here.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our best to, I know a lot of people listen, but if you are watching, put your eyes on the screen and we'll do our best to describe the numbers on here. So we got this giant spreadsheet here, which is really fun to look at from Adam and his team over at Narrate. So where do you want to start on here?
Yeah, I think if you come up here, you can see the mix, right? The unit mix is 20, 55, 25, like we just talked about. But what I think the important thing is that I would look at is your effective rent per month, which is average $1,679 right there. He just marked it, and that's something that's really important to us, and really going after that workforce housing. Not a lot of product is built for that group. There's a lot done for the opposite end of the spectrum for the a lot of assistance there through tax credits and things like that, that make things viable for developers. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is very high end luxury Class A stuff. So this is trying to hit that. This is trying to hit that right in the middle. And really, it's a group of folks that we think are left out in today's new developments that are going on.
Relatively speaking, this is relatively affordable in our current market.
In our current market,
current conditions as well.
Yep.
And so, okay, you mentioned this is going to be 120 units. You'll be breaking ground end of this year, early 2025. From a high level, what's the general capital stack that you need for equity and rough timeline?
Yeah. So if we go down the path of the HUD financing here, our total capital needed is just it's right around $8 million. And it would just be this would just be a traditional 75% loan with HUD, and then you do 25% equity on the deal. So that's really quite simple here. We're not playing any games. We're not introducing mezz debt or preferred equity or anything like that. This is just a straight debt and equity deal.
Okay. And then we have the rents on here. Can you walk us through just kind of other income, and then go through the construction expenses and the stabilized?
Yep, sure thing. So Yeah, so we have other income down here. So there's other ways to generate revenue at the property, right? And we've got garage parking income. That's actually probably should be rephrased. Because these are more.
Is that going to be covered parking?
It's covered parking.
Like covered
it's
reserve
covered reserve parking. It's a carport essentially, but it's a nice carport. If that makes sense. So we have 40 of those and believe that we can charge $40 a month for those. We've got 20 storage spaces. So, and those are actually in a separate building. We've actually got a separate building there, so it's very secure.
So and it's dedicated to a storage.
It's just pretty much dedicated to storage, and there's a little retail space there as well. And that was driven by the zoning here. But at the end of the day, this would be like going down. It's not like your typical apartment storage. This would be like, all the storage that investors buy, right? It almost operates like that.
Like kind of like the public
storage. Yeah.
Self-storage?
Yep.
Okay,
Self-storage, public storage. Yep. That's right.
Okay.
And then you kind of make some assumptions in here, right? If people have pets, you pay, a pet fee up front, and you pay, ongoing pet rent. We just assume that 50% of our renters, so you have 60 total, that have pets here.
And that's not right for Colorado.
It's actually low, I think, but our experience has been more. It's like almost 70.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And then we've got some other line items in here: amenity fees, admin fees, application fees. We haven't filled anything out for that. We just say, hey, there's another $20, per month per unit of other income, and that kind of encapsulates, late payment fees, insufficient funds. That includes your application fees. That includes your admin fees. And what happens is when we get into it more, we work with our property management team to drill this down even further. So it'll become a very detailed other income. Just for the pro forma, it's we don't go quite into that much detail.
The KISS principle: keep it simple, silly.
Yep, that's right.
Works for the numbers.
Yep,
enough, right?
Yep. But we've done enough of these and have been through this enough that we feel pretty confident in that these numbers are pretty close to how it will perform.
Okay. And then where are the stabilized numbers on here?
Stabilized rents?
Yeah, or just kind of the general, I'm curious as you go through, what's the NOI?
Oh yeah. So if you go to annual pro forma at the bottom there, so this kind of lays it out.
Oh yes, this is.
Yep. So this is this is probably what you're looking for here. So this is this is really our income statement at stabilization. So across the top, that's your operating year.
So this is not year one today, but year one.
Year one once it delivers.
Once you got renters coming in.
Yep. So we've got about a 16-month construction time period here. So this would be after we start construction and finish it up. This is kind of your year one operating budget. Year one's always going to be low. Because that's your ramp up period. Your expenses are what they are, but your income is catching up as you begin leasing the building. I mean, ideally we'd love to be open 100% pre-leased, but that doesn't happen. It's very hard to do in multifamily.
So do you expect it'll take a full year to rent it out and stabilize, or what's the average?
Yeah. So I think
leases you think will sign up.
Yeah, I think right now we're assuming 10, 12. So we're 10 months total, 12 leases a month. That seems very doable to me. That's 3 leases a week. We should be able to do that. We should be able to do, I think, more than that even. But you always like to be a little bit conservative when you're underwriting a deal.
Okay. And then are you going to be able to roll it out in phases where, hey, building one's ready to go, start leasing up while maybe the buildings that phases are still getting their COs?
Yeah. That's our plan. That's our plan right now is, we don't even have, we don't have a club room here. Right. So this is a cost sensitive deal. So not a lot of amenities and things that need to get finished up. So there should be no reason that, we can't start getting TCOs by building.
Okay.
And that's something that, we'll work hand in hand with the city on.
Okay. So it looks like year 2 is when you're looking at fully stabilized, because I'm noticing we don't have a $1 million vacancy.
Yeah, we don't have $1 million.
That's the ramp up period.
Yep. That's your ramp up period there.
So total gross revenue, about $2.9 million with the rents, RUBS, and the other income.
Yep.
Vacancy brings us down to about 2.75. Then we go through taxes, insurance, utilities, management fees. I mean, all this looks pretty normal to me.
Yep.
So about $750,000 in total OpEx.
Yep. That's right.
Is there like a rule of thumb you have, like percent wise, as far as like, hey, we're looking at this, what's kind of like a normal OpEx amount?
A lot of people do. I don't.
Okay.
What I do is I put the real numbers in, right? And then sometimes it looks like the expenses are too much of a percentage of the revenue, and then you have other times where it's like, oh man, like your revenue is way too high compared to your expenses, and I know some people have a rule of thumb. I don't. I put what I believe or what we believe as a team holistically the rents are going to be. And then we, operate a ton of properties. So we know our operating expenses generally shake out, and that gives you your NOI at the end of the day. And that's really what I'm focused on.
And one thing I'm looking back here at the operating expenses, it seems like the repairs and maintenance or replacement reserves are, not a big number.
Not a huge number.
Because it's new construction,
Yep,
right?
that's correct. Yeah.
So when does it kind of year 5, year 7, year 10?
Yeah, I'd say it depends on, you're always going to have some stuff, a little here and a little there, but generally speaking, year 5, you'll start getting some stuff. Year 7, you'll get more. And then year 10, you've probably, you really spent some dollars to probably spruce it up a little bit.
Okay. So the $2.9 million minus vacancy minus OpEx leaves us about a $2 million NOI or net operating income. Subtract out 1.4 for some debt service and some asset management fee. And then that's just only $600,000 cash flow after all expenses.
That's right.
Which is a 7.5% cash on cash return.
Yep.
Which seems pretty awesome to me because you go buy an existing resale property right now.
Right.
We're not seeing 7.5% cash on cash.
Yep.
And this is a great location, new build construction. And that is like some really strong numbers on there.
Yeah. So, and one thing I should preface, Chris, as well, the underwriting here, even though we have, a really good long-term financing in place, we're looking at it on basically a 4-year hold, 48 months. And the reason we do that is to make sure that we're getting the proper return for the risks that we're taking to do the development, essentially. So we're trying to quantify what that development risk and return is. We can very easily change a few numbers in here, and this thing will project it out on a 10-year as well.
Okay.
But that's, so when you start looking at it, when you look at debt service coverage ratio, for example, right, it goes in year 3, it doesn't calculate. Right. That's why we've essentially in the model, the building's already sold at this point in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like, is that like the plan A is to probably a 4-year exit? And plan B might go long-term?
It really depends on who our investors are at the end of the day.
Okay.
I think our business plan is usually driven by, what are our partners' business plan as well, and try to align those. I think it'll do very well in the short term if we wanted to sell it, because you've got great debt in place, and that's what a lot of people.
Is that assumable?
It is assumable, 100% assumable, and it's non-recourse, which we like as well.
The buyers will like that too.
Yep. So, so you have great financing in place. I think the financing that's in place here is definitely above, much better than what the marketplace is now. So I think there's value to that as well.
Which tab kind of shows us that kind of the more macro 4-year plan of, build, rent, and sell?
Deal assumptions there.
Deal assumptions.
Yeah, so this is going to run you through all the assumptions, and then if you go kind of in the lower right corner, that's where all your calculations are.
Okay, can you walk me and our audience through this tab?
Yeah, so in the lower right, what we're looking at right now is really about the the sale of the property. So you can see sale and deal month 48. And anything in blue, that's what we're changing all the time and changing those assumptions. Anything in black, don't touch it. It will blow up, and you might not be able to fix it. So
I know that rule for spreadsheets.
So yeah, you make assumptions here. You have your sales expenses at 1%. You have an exit NOI cap rate. This is a wild card. We have 5.5. You could put 6.5 in. You could put, you can really make your IRR look really good or really not so good. So
5.5 cap rate, especially 4 years out from now, that seems
It's
Realistic slash conservative?
I think it's realistic. I'd say it's middle of the road. I think if this asset were available and sold today, it probably sells for that.
Yeah.
Considering that there's Class C, just not very nice properties selling below that. It's like, well, you have a brand new product at a 5.5,
Yeah.
and it's a good business plan too, right? Like I think there's some social impact stuff here that you're really building for people that need housing.
Great. And so end of the day, it looks like at the deal level, kind of with these assumptions about a mid-20 IRR.
Yep, it's a mid-20 IRR, which is very 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 strong.
Yeah.
Most deals we look at are high teens, and we even consider doing those. Actually, a lot of deals we look at are like 10, and those are we just don't want to touch those. But
yeah,
so yeah, fairly strong levered IRR. The stabilized average cash on cash is irrelevant in this scenario because we're not holding it for a long time period. So we could even zero that out in this one. And then your stabilized return on cost. That's what I'm looking at. I think we've talked in one of the past podcasts that you want that to be 100 basis points or more over where current cap rates are. I could make an argument current cap rates are at 5.25. So you're at 100 to 125 basis point spread over. So that feels really good to me.
Yeah. Wow. This looks great, Adam. Anything else on the spreadsheet you want to touch on?
Let's go up. Go down for so then you see in your project exit table, right? Net proceeds per unit. So you're at 312,000 per unit on an exit on a sale. That feels really good to me, considering 2 years ago this thing would have probably sold closer to, if it was around, probably like a $400,000 per unit. So that's another gut check I do, is like, okay, how does this feel compared to like where things have sold in the past? And you want it to be in line. You don't want it to be way higher than anything's ever sold for, because to me that says you're taking some risk then.
Yeah.
At that point in time.
That makes sense. So about just over 300,000 a unit.
Yep. So then if we go up top, I think one other thing to go through is just kind of our overall cost of the project here. So under your uses there, right? That this is a condensed version of our development pro forma, but our site acquisition was $1,168,000. That's unbelievable
for the whole 11 acres.
So four and a half acres.
I'm sorry, 4.5 acres.
But yeah, so we got a really good deal on the land here, and per unit, we're at 9,733 per unit. Typically for this type of product, I'd be looking more probably like 15,000 per unit in land costs. So that just tells us we were able to pick this up at a great deal. Then you get into your hard costs. That's kind of is what it is. That's from your general contractor. They're going to, you give them the plans and they essentially come back to you and tell you what it costs.
It's about $24 million.
Yep. And then TI's lease commissions is for that little retail space. It's automatic, so that's just paying to get a tenant in there, and then also for the brokerage commission.
What type of like retail tenant is that going to be? Or is like a restaurant?
Yeah, it's probably not. I honestly don't know at this point in time. It's to be honest, it's not a great retail location in my opinion. But per the zoning, it's kind of one of those things where, you get these, governmental agencies that put ridiculous zoning requirements on you and they require you to do retail here. So
you're satisfying that.
So we're kind of satisfying that. We've even talked about, potentially making it an amenity for our residents at the end of the day. It's just not a great retail location. It's high traffic, but not what you'd be looking for like a restaurant or anything like that. So,
but in the day, it's such a small part. Of the project.
It's such a small part of the overall project. Yeah,
change the numbers.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we could put 0 in for rent, and it's not going to change it drastically.
Okay, and then 3.2 million soft cost.
Yep. So soft cost. That's all your architectural fees, attorney fees, your marketing, your branding. Your real estate taxes while you're under construction. So that's kind of that captures pretty much everything that is not a hard cost. So hard cost is, the physical, materials that are being built on site plus your contractor's overhead and things. Essentially soft cost is everything beyond that. outside of your kind of developer fee and your financing fees.
And then financing fees about $465,000.
Yep.
That's not the interest. Is that like just the fees for the loan, the origination?
Yeah, that's just the fees for the origination.
Okay.
I got 2% in here. It is a great loan, but yeah, no, it's that's just your upfront fees. We're carrying 2% here. Probably somewhere right around there.
And then a couple of the things in here, and all together, it's about just under a $31 million total project cost.
That's right.
Or about $257 a unit.
Yep.
With a projected sale of what we said, $312 a unit.
Yep.
So rough numbers, you see that on there. I mean, that's, as you look at those, that seems like a good spread to me.
It's a good spread. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd prefer to be at 100,000 a door spread, but I guess beggars can't be choosers.
Now, of course, always going to say, the plan is go, build to sale.
Yep.
And, I think we all say in 4 years from now, we think rates will be lower, cap rates, the market will be in a healthier spot.
Yep.
But let's say it's not, worst case, you hold on to it.
Yep.
It's going to cash flow.
This thing's going to cash. This thing is going to
8, 9% cash on cash return rate.
Yeah, it should keep going up, right? Our rate is fixed for 40 years. Which
it's fixed for the whole 40 years.
It's fixed for the whole 40 years.
Oh,
yeah.
so it's not just amortized for 40 years; it's fixed for 40 years too.
Yep. Yeah, it's a 40-year loan.
Wow.
Yep. And the beauty of it is you actually have the ability, and I don't know all the ins and outs, but you have the ability to get some additional proceeds down the road. You can refinance out if rates go down. So it's a pretty cool program. It's really really challenging to get through the approval process, but once you get through it, it's probably worth it at the end of the day.
Okay, awesome.
So,
Adam, this has been phenomenal. I know we're going to talk more about this deal as it progresses.
Yep.
We're also right now currently we're scheduling back or we're emailing back and forth, do some property walks to go view this site one day, some other sites that you and Narrate is doing. So if anyone out there wants to walk this property or get more details, walk another site, make sure you ping me and we'll get you on that email list, because walking properties is one of the most fun things to do. Yeah. And you have some great sites and some beautiful products.
Yeah.
So Adam, as always, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, and always enjoy it.
All right, investors out there, hope you enjoyed this. Let us know what you'd like to see more about properties like this as we dive more into understanding the world of development. Let me know what type of questions you have for development space or for Adam in particular. Thanks a lot, everyone.